Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join us today. And if you are listening to this show on Podomatic, then you should visit womenentrepreneursecrets.com, and you will find links for the show on different platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, among others. So you just go there, click on podcasts, and you'll get all that information about where the other places are that you can find the show. And if you're listening on iTunes, it would be really great if you could share your feedback, share a review, give this show 5 stars if you enjoyed it, because, of course, it's always very helpful for other people to find the show and on iTunes with the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. If you do share feedback, then it makes it easier for other people to find the show as well. So I hope that you will take a moment and give your feedback for the show there as well. And you can come to womenentrepreneursecrets.com, and you can get information about how to become a guest if you're interested. And if you want to share some blog posts, be a guest blogger, then there's also a link there to show how you can contribute posts to the blog, or if you have questions, you can also send a message from there about your suggestions for posts you may be interested in sharing. And if you visit my site, thebaileycoach.com, you can find out more about my online courses and my book coaching that I'm offering. And if you go to my other website, brightstreetbooks.com, you will see my books. I have several books out there, and you can check them out. There's nonfiction and fiction as well. So go there, check them out. There's links to where you can buy them on all online booksellers. So I hope that you'll check that out and see what I've been up to when I'm not hosting the show. So we're going to get started with my guest today. And my guest is Barrett Clemmensen Powell. In 2018, she started a 10-year career as a TV and radio journalist. She then earned her master's degree and got ordained while exploring over 25 countries. Next, she entrepreneurially launched her life strategy practice, earning $1 million in her first 6 months, got a degree in French, then moved her practice to Europe. There she launched 2 more businesses, learned Danish, and earned a 4th university degree in psychology and culture. Her focus is on empowering girls to become empowered global women who are phenomenal in life and business. Her clients include women CEOs and celebrity wives partners. Barrett Clemmensen Powell is on fire about promoting female confidence through her 2 girl power books and motivational talks to women worldwide. So welcome to the show, Barrett.
Thank you so much, Deb. I'm glad to be here.
Well, there's so much that you do or are doing and will be doing. It's just really exciting, you know. But before we get into your books in particular, could you please share how you got started with your work?
Well, I started out a very nerdy bookworm, little bit maybe a agoraphobic girl in New England, not really wanting to leave New England and not thinking that I really could leave New England. And wow, I've grown up to be this woman who I'm so hungry to be in and amongst other cultures and to build bridges between people and across cultures, it's amazing. So I started out knowing that I wanted to write and knowing that I wanted to do speaking to people, and knowing that I wanted to touch them spiritually, emotionally, in some way. So for me at the time, it was when I was 6, telling my parents I was going to be a writer. I knew about that, and I was going to be a preacher, and that I was going to be also, now how I even knew this word was amazing, but I used to call it a psychologist, meaning psychologist. So,
all right.
so a psychologist. So I started out with the writing. And in fact, it's funny. I just realized a few years ago that I started being an entrepreneur in junior high. I started being an entrepreneur with my writing. And it wasn't such a necessarily glamorous way, but I was. And then I went on to college to be a journalist. And I got to the school, and within the first few weeks, the local CBS affiliate needed people to assist with reporting because there was an election. And my school was very connected in communication, Emerson College. And so I got sent down. There I was, a paid freelance reporter for a CBS News affiliate in a major U.S. city at the age of 18.
Wow. And
from there, it just went on. I mean, those were basically the jobs that I would hold, jobs at radio and TV stations, part-time. I could put together like 2 different part-time jobs, 2 different stations, a radio station and TV station, and I was carrying a full load of classes and still managed to graduate, and went on to continue to work in doing TV and radio and some newspaper for a decade. So that's how I got started. And then I realized that I got to that turning point. They call it the dirty 30, but is that, let's get really serious about life. And I said, it's time for me to go back to school and get my degree in theology, which was a Master of Divinity. No matter where I lived, I've always been active in my church in some way, and express my faith through social justice. And so I went back, and I actually found I really wanted to be ordained. I felt called to being an ordained minister. So I got my Master of Divinity. I got ordained. And while I was doing that, I started traveling, doing humanitarian work with different independent groups, teaching, helping build schools, whatever was needed by the people that we were going to meet, teaching first aid, bringing down medical supplies, you name it. And so I started traveling to different places around the world and seeing how different people lived and looked and spoke. It was just amazing. And that was it. I got the bug, and I just couldn't stop. So then even I was, after graduating from seminary, graduate school, 4 years, I launched my own practice and combined my ability to communicate and teach and speak with doing something for people that would uplift them. And people would say, well, how are you doing this? And I was just, okay, here's what you've got to do. So I began basically being a business coach. Didn't even know that I fell into that. So it was like being a spiritual life and business coach, so I just called it, this is a life strategy. And I said, you know what? I really want to go to Europe. And I had already visited some countries, and I said, you know what? I can do this job there. I can do what I'm doing there. All I need is my phone and a computer, or even just my phone. And that's exactly what I did. I just went ahead and I did it. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer,
Mm-hmm.
and if you really read things, you find out it's Gen X is actually, we constitute the majority of entrepreneurs, and we are the ones who basically launched entrepreneurship in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We are the generation. I don't call us Generation X. I call us Generation Just Do It. Because that's what we did. If we were the latchkey kids, in quotes, well, you know what? We got out there and said, okay, I got to earn money. I've got to do things myself because there's no job security. No one's going to give me a job, or if they do, they're going to fire me because I wore purple socks that day. So I've got to be able to depend on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So this generation Just Do It that I'm a part of, that people call us the Gen Xers, we really are the leaders in entrepreneurship, and we're the ones who actually fuel the tech and biotech industries coming into being and taking off the way that they have. So we might not get mentioned as much as baby boomers and millennials. We're sandwiched between them, but hey, we sure are important. And this was how I got started, with all this, and it has just blossomed into a life. You have to be really, really, I think, confident, and the traveling gave me the confidence, and being able to support other women. I've gained more confidence as I have done it. I mean, I've learned languages along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's been incredible. It has been an incredible life.
And this wasn't quite the way you thought, though, this would turn out, is it?
No, I would say no, that it isn't, but I really do love it. I mean, there's been the ups and downs. I mean, one great up is, of course, in my first 6 months, I made $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was working. I was just selling it and helping people and traveling. I mean, I just absolutely loved and still do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helped me to fulfill things that I've wanted to do, like we'll, talk about, I wrote children's books. I always had that in the back of my mind somewhere small, and now it's out there. And it's all because of being able to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I've written just books to help women, to empower them, especially starting in early midlife. And dealing with them in early midlife. So now I have most of the women that I coach, in my spiritual entrepreneur, my phenomenal program, they're in their 30s up to 60. I'd say 30 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I get this thrill. I sit up at night. Sometimes I can't sleep because I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, look, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and she's going to be doing that, and she's going here, and she's going there, and it's really exciting. It gives me deep pleasure to help other people. In particular, my niche is in helping women. It's been so soul satisfying. And that's I should stop back and tell you what that first entrepreneurial venture of mine.
Yeah.
I was in junior high, and I'm telling this now on public radio, so it won't anymore. But I was in junior high, and I began writing stories of myself, but mostly the girlfriends that I had, around me. I would write a story with a chapter about them and the celebrity that they had a crush on. And these were basically what I now realize, sort of like erotic fan fiction.
Oh, wow.
I was a high girl, and I would tell you there was a whole lot of kissing and hugging and whatever, what I could even understand about sex, at that point. And I'd write a chapter a day, and I would charge $1 to read that day's chapter.
I love it.
People would pass the notebook around and we'd be reading it in class after class, and people would pass it around like when we were talking about history or, science or whatever, and they'd be reading the chapter. It was like, oh, can you write one for me? And they'd read other people's chapters too, just, every day. It's like, yep, $1 chapter a day. Yes. Oh boy, I made some good money.
That is just fantastic. I mean, really. It's like,
you know that one day I came in and my mother had accidentally knocked over my stack of books and things like that, and the notebook came out and it opened up and my mother saw it. So
that must have been interesting.
Well, my mother she knew that I didn't take well to a lot of emotion, so she very calmly said to me, well, I've seen this notebook and I've read it, and I want to ask you, do you really want to be known for this? And I said, well, I don't have a problem.
Oh my God. That's just great.
It's hilarious. When you think about it, I was, here it was in the 7th grade making something like anywhere between $30 and probably close to $100 a day in dollar bills.
I love it. I really do. That's entrepreneurship.
Yes. I used my resources and I solved the problem. I mean, girls had a need for, these girls had a need to romance and love.
That's fantastic, because that's part of what I do today. I write some of those books for people who have a need.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's why I'm laughing so hard, because I'm like, yep. It doesn't change.
Yes. Ah.
That's fantastic. I love it. You're traveling and you're meeting people and you're doing all these things, and I think even that by itself could be a conversation. But we connected when you were sending the information about your book, and I was like, wow, this is terrific. I'm excited about this, and then we were able to come together on this show and have this conversation about what you're doing with your publishing. Like we were talking before we started about how limited it is, particularly in general, but it certainly is when we get to the so-called kidlit and young adult, all these different categories that people are really social media having these discussions and sometimes even more heated arguments about representation and what is going on out there. So I think this is so timely for this conversation. You've obviously had to look at the state of diversity in children's literature right now, and because you're putting your books out and you're talking about things that now you have to do with your publishing. So what is your take on what you're seeing with children's literature right now?
Well, okay, the situation for people who don't know is that we have when they've been monitoring it closely since about maybe 2010, maybe early, but around 2010 you can find things. Up until now, the figure of male editors in traditional publishing houses tend to be Anglo males. 83 to 87% of them are Anglo males, and they're claiming that nobody wants to read a book that isn't about an Anglo boy. Mm-hmm. So these are the books these are the stories they accept for publishing, and these are the books they're putting out there. So therefore, girls are not getting to see themselves going off on adventures or doing things in books. Most of the stories they read, whatever they're about, are about Anglo boys. So girls are not seeing themselves be brave, curious, intelligent, adventurous, they're not seeing themselves go places. They're not seeing themselves take action. They're not seeing themselves as the protagonist in a book. And then when you talk about girls of color, it just gets worse. Mm-hmm. So basically what you have is about 88% of children's books feature an Anglo boy as the protagonist. So doing the math, you have something like 13% left around there. Mm-hmm. Well, out of that, then the majority of that is Anglo girl. Well, actually, that's even a smaller, because after the Anglo boys, next is coming inanimate objects like robots and animals. And then you've got Anglo girls, and then an even smaller percentage, you have African American black girls, and then you'll have Latina, and then Native American girls are something like 1% of that, remaining percentage. Mm-hmm. So girls are not seeing themselves in books. And so I just decided to write. I didn't even know these statistics. In the back of my head, I sort of knew, because when I thought about traveling and taking adventures, the only thing that came to my mind was Tintin. I grew up reading Tintin. Mm-hmm. And that's a boy. It's an Anglo boy. Mm-hmm. So I just had wanted to write a children's book, and I encountered a woman who always wanted to illustrate children's books. We were both expats. I was in Copenhagen, Denmark. She was in Rome, Italy. And we just decided to collaborate and do it and self-publish the book. Mm-hmm. It was Lori Leake Travels to Paris, about an African-American girl and her parents. They go off to Paris on a vacation to Paris. And I just wrote this story, just putting myself in there, because Lori Leake is essentially me as a little girl. We use photographs of me as a little girl. We use photographs of my parents, who have the parents. Mm-hmm. Leake is a name that is it is a surname of my family on my father's side. And, I used photographs that I've taken from when I've gone to France. Mm-hmm. And digitized them and colorized them. The artist did incredible work of making these rich illustrations from the photographs that I would give her. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I want to continue this. I'd like to continue this. And I said, you know what? I never come to Copenhagen. And so that was the second book that I've just released. So now she's going to Paris, going to Copenhagen. She's off to Washington, D.C., San Diego, California, and then she's going to go to Hong Kong. She's also going to hit up Johannesburg in South Africa. Mm-hmm. She's going to hit up Sydney, Australia. She's going to hit up so many places. And I've even decided to branch it out and have special books where she does things like celebrate Passover Seder, mm-hmm. So we can have diversity within the book, and also to be able to bring these other things out into the open. I think it would be really wonderful to have. And so for something like that, we'll actually take a picture of a Jewish family having a Passover Seder, and we will insert Lori Leake into it. Mm-hmm. So it'll be it actually will be a photograph of it. Mm-hmm. And people are coming forth. It's been so exciting. People are coming forth and saying, hey, come stay with me in this country and city. I want you to stay with us. And yes, and we'll take you around, and you can take photos. And these are people that I will include in the book.
It's just really exciting the way you're putting this together and how it's been unfolding. Just having the representation, particularly in these books for children, is so important. And that's why, this is the conversation that's going on right now. And I think it's extremely important one to have.
It's so important. I heard a conversation, I have to tell you, the other day, well, not heard it. Mm-hmm. I was reading about it, and you can find things online. They just had a meeting of the American Library Association, the ALA. Mm-hmm. And apparently some stuff went down at this last meeting. Mm-hmm. Women got slighted again. And it turns out, and this is sad, the majority of the people who hold the powerful positions in the American Library Association and at libraries are white males. What's
Mm.
going on?
That's interesting because I would have thought it was mostly women based on who I
That's
see a lot of times when I go to the library, who's actually the ones behind the desks.
But apparently, I know, but apparently those aren't the ones who are when you get something about the ALA itself,
Oh,
the
okay.
ones who are dictating the practices and the policies. And so
Right.
it's going on in many different levels. It's going on at publishing houses. It's going on at libraries. So these are the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very, very, very challenging. And they put up a high bar and a big gate so
Right.
that you really can't, get through. We don't really want to hear from you. We really don't want your submissions. Well, this isn't worthy of anything.
That's
So
true.
I'm too independent to sit down and put myself through that. I have to tell you that. I'm too independent to allow somebody to tell me that these books are not worth anything. Oh, yes, they are. That's why you don't want them.
Well, that's it. That's it. They are worthwhile, and I think for the people who don't see them, you realize how worthwhile they are, and that's particularly why I published my own book, because I wanted to write novels about Black women who are in science fiction, who are in paranormal, and I didn't see it. I didn't see it from the publishers. I still don't see it. And I was like, I'm going to create my own because I'm not going to wait for someone to maybe possibly invite me in. I'm going to create my own thing and put it out there. And with self-publishing being what it is now with technology, we can really put these things together and get our work out there. And I could just say real quick, when I self-published my first book in 2010, it was a lot tougher than it is right now because there's so many things in place, so many tools in place that are affordable, if not for free.
Yes, people don't realize it.
Yes.
Entrepreneur, I can tell you, I'm sure then
Yes.
Entrepreneurship has changed so much. I've seen.
Oh, yeah.
It's been, so for me, it's almost, 2018 was my 20th year.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you there's been a big difference
Mm-hmm.
from 1998 until now.
Yes.
A big difference. I had to sit down and build my own, I had to sit down and teach myself HTML and then build a website in 1990. Okay.
Yes, I totally, because I was actually a computer programmer, and I remember taking HTML at work because I wanted to understand how to do a website.
When I think back about what I did, and it was sheer raw determination.
Right.
That I wasn't going to let someone defeat me. I was going to succeed. So I just did it. I did what I had to do. And I worked that phone. Cell phones. I had a flip phone. I had a little flip phone with an antenna sticking out of the top of it. And I worked it. I would go from country to country getting a SIM card,
Mm-hmm.
and putting this and switching out the SIM cards and having people, contact me. And I was hanging out in chat rooms and selling what I was doing, selling myself, basically. There was no social media. Right. So things, in a way, all these things are they're much easier. It is a bit of a different world now. I think we're dealing with you have the big thing that I find that women are dealing with, women entrepreneurs, is what I call the advance of the bropreneur. I just did a segment on that on my YouTube channel. Because now bropreneurs, which are basically the younger version of the Old Boys Network, which is again Anglo and male. The Old Boys Network is now raising up the bropreneurs. The bropreneurs are all these influencers you see out there calling each other bro. Hey bro, hey bro. It's kind of funny to see these very pale guys. Hey bro, hey bro. And it's kind of funny. But they're very but they have these, some of them have, podcasts with hundreds of episodes and all these things. But just sitting back and analyzing, I can see that all they do is interview each other and promote each other's books and courses classes and things.
Yeah.
If someone has 800 podcasts, 750 of them episodes are all Anglo males.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a few women, and very few of those women are women of color.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but now they're running out of themselves. So now they're starting to look to women, but they're looking for women to for women to buy their coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for women to buy their coach. I know how to get you Instagram followers. I know how to,
Yes.
I'm going to teach you how to work anywhere in the world. And these guys are sitting their butt in the United States, okay? Only time they travel is when they go on a vacation and with a professional photographer to take pictures of them so they look like. Okay, no, that's not it. They haven't done what I've done. They didn't pick up their business and move to Europe and live there and work there. And that's what they're promising to teach women. I'm like, okay, I'm really praying that a lot of women don't get eyes glazed over at, the guy with the shiny blue eyes and the muscles, and because he says, I'll teach you Instagram. I know women who know how to teach LinkedIn and Instagram, all the different social media, who are experts in those fields. I'm really hoping that women will look around for other women entrepreneurs as resources. Because these brokepreneurs are really trying to advance on us because they've run out of themselves. Statistically, they're running out of themselves anyway. There's fewer of there's more women than men, and women tend to be more educated. Women entrepreneurs tend to be so highly educated. I'm so excited. Did you read, Deb, about how 9.4 million women-owned businesses in the United States? 9.4 million. And out of that, 2.4 million of them are owned by African American women, and that's the fastest growing group of women entrepreneurs.
And that's actually been that way for several years, but it's probably been very much on the radar because I remember seeing that statistic a few years ago. I think that's the thing. That's an interesting thing that we're touching on, is that I feel a lot of times for women, I know when I was in corporate as a programmer, of course there were a lot of women that came into the field after a while, because at first that was definitely a majority male field, and actually probably still is. But a lot of times in corporate, if the woman has to take time off for a family or personal issue, or maybe she's got other responsibilities, which of course a lot of times women do, that could be a mark against your career. That could be held against you because you're not willing to sacrifice all for the good of the company that is still going to lay you off anyway. And I think a lot of women decided, well, I could do something better than this on my own, so let me see what I can do out here. And I think that drives a lot of that, particular for women of color who are just tired of inequities and saying, I want to try to do something on my own. What can I do? And now with so many tools out here, as we're saying now, then, you may have been able to find before, barrier for entry is lower. But as you're saying, and I've had this conversation with others about the people promising so much and looking so beautiful on Instagram and having all these things they're saying that they can do for you.
Yes. Oh, they're so shiny. And then you contact them. I know. And sorry, I am someone when I coach women, I say, you need to be careful to look at who you are following.
Yes.
Look at who you are trying to. Does that person look like you? Does that person have any resemblance to you? Because if they don't care about you. They're just
money
for your money.
Yeah. And making a lot of promises.
Yes.
Of things happening instantly and easily.
Yeah, instantly, easily, and in a big, big way.
Yes.
It's all very male. This conversation's getting very phallic.
Let's go back to our books.
But I mean, but that's the stuff that's there. And I really, when I coach women, I tell them, okay, how I'm going to empower you is help you to see what really needs to be seen, to be aware of things and to find your strengths. And so when I work with women of color, work with an African American woman, I want her to really, I say, come on, if you got to pull out your black girl magic and you got to use it, and just women in general, tell them, girl power. You have got to, and raise your girls to be intelligent, to be curious, to be, all the things, confident girls. And Lori Leak, for me, this character, Lori Leak, this is exactly who she is. In every single book, the 2 books that are out and all the books that are going to come, and I have 50 planned total.
Wow. That's
she is going to be walking into places, speaking some of the language, bravely doing things, getting into trouble sometimes, doing surprising things, because I want girls to see that this is exactly what they should and could and should be doing. And I want women to be able to get out there and create businesses where they're doing what they want to do. So, exactly. Diversity, it's really lacking. In 2019, we're now solidly into the 21st century, and diversity in children's literature is really poor. And it's poor because we are still carrying over this patriarchal white privilege kind of thing. And it really, and it hurts. I feel sad for Anglo women who the image they keep getting thrown in their face is that they have to be this flowery, high voice, dress wearing, helpless female. And it's just not fair. It's really just not fair. Look at venture capital. Oh, Deb, I was talking with some people who work with and about venture capital and connected to Forbes and Entrepreneur and all that kind of things. And we were talking about, and this was just in the last 2 weeks, and we were discussing how women get asked different questions when they go for venture capital. They're asked questions when they go to get venture capital. The men, the panels who are asking the questions are basically, again, it's the bropreneurs, and it's or the old boys network. These are Anglo men who are asking the questions, and because it's not a federally protected situation of like seeking a job, that they ask women who are seeking VC get asked questions they are not allowed to be asked when they go for a job. They are asked about children. Are they planning children? Do they have children? How much? They're asked questions about their reproductive life, their sex life, their emotions, all kinds of things. They're treated so with such discrimination when they go to get VC. They're not asked the same questions. They're not viewed as being as competent. Women walk away with less than 2%, I think, or no, now it's about 2.2% of all VC. And that's only up from 1.7% 20 years ago.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
So we still have to, so women are still basically, but that's a credit to women because we're still bootstrapping it and getting up there and getting out there. We're not giving up.
Right. And that's true. That's what kind of pushes you to have to find other ways to get things done because you don't have that same access. And for those who, see what they want to do, then they're willing to say, okay, how else can I get this done?
Yes, and to be creative and actually to be creative, which is why, for example, like I try to get some of the people, women that I coach, I'll actually get them together to work in mastermind groups. I put together mastermind, and I will specifically get in the groupings where there's someone who is skilled in social media, and there's someone who is skilled in web design, and there's someone who is skilled in whatever her niche may be, whatever her product she's trying to sell or market, so that they can actually all help one another instead of using their resources financially, meaning their money. Instead of having to spend money to go out and get these things, they can actually use each other to build upon as a core and get themselves up and out there. Because that's what it takes, women leaning upon other women.
Exactly. That's really what it is.
Yeah, leaning. I don't lean in.
Yeah.
I find that lean in thing to be hilarious, actually. I was like, lean in? Lean in? And as an African American woman, I come from a people who we don't lean in. We've been in the pot. We've been in the whole soup. I don't need to lean into anything. I've already been doing it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had some differences with the whole point of that book from the things I have feedback I've seen about it. But Barrett, please share with everyone where they can find out more about you and where they can find your books.
Well, Lori Leek Travels to Paris and Lori Leek Travels to Copenhagen are both in multiple places. You can find them very easily on Amazon.com. Just put in Lori Leek Travels to Paris or Lori Leek Travels to Copenhagen. There's also where you'll see my name will be highlighted as my author's page. You can click on that and it will give you the list of all of the books that I have. You can find those two books, and you can also find the book Midlife Opportunity, Power. It's about power, money, and well-being in your late 30s and early 40s. And that one is where I would really suggest that women get that book for themselves so they know what they're going through in their late 30s to early 40s and don't really, lose your mind. So you can keep it together and use it. It is an opportunity period to get your business out there. It also a website for the children's books. It's Lori Leek, LORILEAK, LoriLeek.com. And there you can also find the books. Lori Leek Travels to Paris and Lori Leek Travels to Copenhagen.
Wonderful. That's really great. And I'll also put those links in the show notes. Barrett, we had a wonderful conversation. I know we could go on because there's so many different topics that we could definitely cover here. But could you share about global networking between women? You've definitely done that, putting together your book. What are some suggestions that you have for women listening who really want to, get out there and make these connections?
What I would say, if you really want to do global networking, and by that I mean making contact with women in other countries who are doing the same things you're doing and doing other things, I would really suggest that you get yourself into groups that are based, clearly say in the title, for example, on Facebook, that they are based in another country. But I also would suggest that in the groups that you are in or a group you want to form, you want to make contact with people online in Facebook, and you want to keep it on a level where you can talk about what you can do for each other to help each other, not trying to get each other to buy your courses and those kinds of things. And you don't want to be a part of a 12,000 member group that is basically somebody's mailing list where they're saying they're going to teach you how to do Instagram and all these kinds of things. You really want to connect with other women, and you want to, here's my biggest thing, and this is something that I also do, Deb, is I take women on networking trips. So a group of us, American women, go over to Europe and we hit 4 or 5 major cities. We'll take 2 to 3 weeks and we'll meet with groups of women entrepreneurs in London or Paris or Rome, Copenhagen, and we will talk with one another. We may even have some sort of a event where, yes, it can be a money-making event, but we also spend time to eat together and talk together and learn from each other. And that I would suggest that you do in order to globally network. Contact me. You can email me. it'll show that my email can be in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would really suggest. You've got this tool of the internet so that you can connect with women from other countries and cultures, because just connecting with women in your own country, and I'll speak to just American women, only connecting with other American women is not going to get you out there. It is really the power of women working across cultures that is going to bring you actually more business, more money, more connections, more relationships. And these are high quality connections.
And that, I think, is something that nowadays, since we can make these connections and again, the tools that we have to communicate with people all over the world, you really don't want that to go to waste, because this is something that people didn't really have easily at their fingertips, or they had to pay a lot of money for it, or whatever. And now this is something that people often, or I guess, usually take for granted, but we really can't do that, because you can grow your influence, if you will, and your connections, and really grow something that you believe in and make it a lot
Yes.
bigger.
And don't forget, Deb, remember, business travel is tax deductible.
Even better.
So, honey, we could be hitting all these places, and because we're discussing business, that trip is something you write off on your taxes. So it's not something that is costing you money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these women need to remember this, and these are the little things to remember about being a businesswoman. And it's important to have that bonding. And I think that also across business lines is where women, by connecting with women from other cultures and even within the U.S., I would really like to see a lot more Anglo women and women of color being able to connect. And that means that there has to be this intentionality about connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And it also means there has to be this acknowledgement of, and you said a little something about it, and we won't really go into it, but I know that I deal with women of color who I coach, have to deal with the microaggressions, the little things that happen every single day at the intersection of gender and ethnicity or race, because women of color get doubled down on with the comments and the actions that discriminate. But women in general, we have to bond together. So we really need to remember that the enemy is not each other.
Right. Exactly. That's true. That's so important, especially when you're talking about making these connections globally, with different cultures and everything. You really can grow something really important, and it can be beyond what you even imagine that you could have. If you're kind of thinking a little small, right now you're not sure, you could really make these connections and really have something more than you dreamed of, because that's what we have at our fingertips right now. That's there. But I think when people can make these connections and speak honestly with each other, then that also is going to help in general. I think for women to really step up now, I think it's imperative.
It is imperative. It is imperative that we do this.
Yes.
I want women to have the same experiences that I've had, and I've enjoyed, talking with you about it. I mean, I've had the pleasure of living in Norway, of living in Denmark, of living in Israel, of living on the island of Dominica, of living in Costa Rica, and all because, Israel, also in Egypt, all because I was willing to just put myself out there. And this is what all women can do. And we can do business around the world. And we can have, you can have your 5-figure business, make $75,000, or make, $750,000, or make, $2 million a year. Whatever it is that satisfies you, you have the possibility of doing it. And you just have to keep going.
That's it. And I like that you that you said that way. Everybody's business doesn't have to look exactly the same. Based on people's, promises, what they're telling you, everybody must make six figures or whatever. You can make it how you want it, and have all this that you can do and different ways you can do it. And I think it's so important for you to make those points, because that isn't often what the average woman hears, that she has these things that she can do. Usually we're hearing limitations, or if we're talking about those folks who promise so much, they're usually promising all the same types of things, the same types of businesses. And they're not really talking about how you can expand your world and your network and your experiences. You can actually be out there and meeting other people and having these experiences and seeing different things in the world. That's a whole other thing that a lot of times these people,
and giving back, because you have the resource to give back. You have the time and you have the money.
Right. And that's what I find, talking to a lot of women entrepreneurs, that's a really important thing for them to do as well. So this is something that can really open a lot of doors for you in your life. And I think it's so, so important to realize it is doable. It's a matter of deciding what it is that you really want, and not feeling it has to fit into what other people are saying you should want. This is how you should do it because this is what I'm selling you. So I think this is a really very powerful conversation, Barrett. And like I said, we could definitely go on and on with all these topics, because there's so much. Well,
I'll be sure to send you I'll send you, make sure you have all the URLs, whatever people can. You can put that in the show notes. And I just really want everyone who is listening to realize that all of us, we want to have empowered girls. We want that girl power to go on.
Yes.
We really want to raise up girls of all ethnicities to understand that they can be adventurous and intelligent, that they can be curious, that they can go anywhere they want and be anyone who they want to be, so that they become women who are phenomenal, empowered women. That's my goal.
That is a fantastic goal, Barrett. I'm so glad that we connected. I'm so glad you could be on the podcast, and I hope that you will return in the future and we can continue this conversation.
You are.
I hope that you will, because there's a lot of good stuff here to share, and a lot for women to learn from and see what is possible for them. So I want to thank you so much again for joining me, Barrett. This has been a wonderful conversation.
You're welcome.
So everyone, I always say I know you enjoyed it, and I mean that to the bottom of my heart. I know you enjoyed this conversation, and as we said, the links and everything will be in the show notes, so you will find the description of this show on the WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com site, and also on all the other podcast platforms. You may not be able to click through on all of them, but you certainly will be able to do that from WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com site. So that's a place that you can find all the links and everything that we have discussed today. So once again, everyone, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. So glad you could join us today, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.